I would put music and some audio cues in this intro, but I don't have any. Sorry.
Warning, if you have not seen whatever it is that I'm reviewing, this video may contain spoilers of key events. You'll have to consider this before watching the rest of the review. You have been warned.
Previously on a Hollow Review. I think the biggest problem with the anime adaptation of Kantai Collection... Wait. Oops. Wrong review. Previously on a Hollow Review. Matter of fact, almost everything about Higurashi wears a mask, and anyone, no matter how good they may be, can be a monster. Higurashi is amazing because of its methodical technique of displaying the brutality of humanity's darkest hours. Instead of taking the exact same tired, one-sided approach by saying, "I will never give up," Higurashi has the brains to accept that defeat is always possible, but knows that we can't always lose by saying, "I will not give up if I can help it." I shall cover the sequel, Higurashi no Naku Koro ni Kai, in a separate video after I finish rewatching it. It takes a different direction that I think warrants its own video, yet connected enough to be a part of one whole experience. Our story continues.
Believe in the power of friendship. After the overall, we come to visit. K, good. Goodbye, Rosie. I mean, Flower.
I wish I can say Higurashi no Naku Koro ni Kai, or Higurashi Kai as I shall refer to it, was more of the same. More Higurashi. It would have made this review shorter and easier to write. Hell, the first episode is literally an epilogue to the finale of the first season, revealing that its seemingly good ending was fruitless at preventing the inevitable. But as it turns out early on, when the anime goes out of its way to make this look and feel like this is very much the case, it takes off the mask it had been wearing up until that point and exposes itself for what it truly is. I wish I could say this was more of the same Higurashi we were used to, but it isn't. Higurashi Kai represents a sharp direction shift that tackles the other side of the series, the side that was alluded to in the past but never fully materialized under all the blood. If the first season was about questions, then the sequel is about answers. Answers to the problems that plague who these characters are. Answers to all the most suspicious of intentions. Answers to the overarching mystery that looms over Hinamizawa's fate. All of which make for a mixed bag. Instead of paranoia-driven personal mysteries about the potential vagueness of trust, we get some stuff about scientific study into an ancient brain disease. Instead of morality tales about good intentions backfiring in the most tragic of ways, we get some flatly defined political intrigue about secret societies and a conspiracy as if it were Deus Ex. And instead of showing humanity at its worst through our greatest, most relatable, innate fear, we get the long, sustaining battle between belief and government power. Will versus might. The force of friendship versus a woman with an almost shoehorned god complex.
Tastes good, kitty. That's because it's encrusted with friendship.
And it does this all in the name of answering questions. The question now is whether or not it should have even tried. That's the funny part. The fact that I bother questioning Higurashi's decision to try and answer questions, even down to creating its own disease of virtually mystical qualities, just explain why characters have been such reprehensible scumbags in the past, which single-handedly managed to hurt, if not outright demolish, the first season's most interesting underlying conflict, the conflict with the self. Now there's an answer to that, and it is dumb. Like jumping the shark dumb. Turns out the paranoia and brutality expressed by the characters in the first season was not the fault of the horrifying flaws of human nature, but by the Hinamizawa syndrome, an illness in the brain caused by microscopic parasites that stimulate insanity whenever people leave the village, even though the characters never fully left Hinamizawa in the first season, yet succumbed to this disease anyway. But I'm starting to get ahead of this bullshit. It makes its own rules. Point is, Rika is said to be some kind of queen bee for this syndrome because of her bloodline or other such balls. And Mio Takano, who was previously a minor character, is revealed to be the Palpatine of the series, and she wants to kill Rika so she can incite Oyashiro's curse like a god because she's a bitch with an edgy dark past, and friendship, and parallel worlds, and what happened? How did it get here? It spent the last season establishing a world full of death and ambiguity that left characters who had made huge mistakes realizing that learning from said mistakes was possible. All Higurashi Kai had to do was deploy those answers to all of its important questions and conflicts, and it did. It even attempts to explore certain characters to a more in-depth extent that just wasn't possible with the prequel's mysterious nature, continuing the prospect that not all of the characters are bad people. But there's a line to be crossed before the bleak and unforgiving forest of mystery is given a street light or 200 and you begin answering too much. Much like how implementing real-world logic can hurt a fantasy, certainty can be an Achilles heel to a mystery, especially when it uses Higurashi's questions and answers dynamic. And good lord is it confident, spewing out answers left and right till there's nothing left to be a surprise. It wants to resolve everything and try so hard at it to the point where the balance that supported season 1 is left at the sidelines to literally say belief in the power of friendship is the key to averting failure. Not trust, not the realization that humans are flawed, not by the realization that our flaws are something we can overcome, just that friendship is magic and it can somehow transcend space and time.
Love, Tars, love.
If this sounds like it can almost pass itself off as a B-movie plot, that's only because Higurashi Kai's plot mostly does when it lets go of the previous conventions and attempts further world building, albeit if said world building drank one too many wine coolers, which is to say, damn, that's a lot of wine coolers. And it doesn't help that we now have a confirmed evil villain thrown into the mix, undermining the ambiguity that the first season did a good job at exploring. Yes, it's still about fighting the odds to create a better future, and we do get resolutions to Satoko's plight of self-pity and abuse, Shion's plight of finding her lost love, and answers questions worth touching upon, like what happened to Satoshi. My problem with this anime isn't that it's not like the show that came before it. It's that when all is said and done, it just did not know when to stop. Stop! You're going too far, Higurashi Kai! For the love of Nipa! You have so much padding and exposition and ideas at this point that you almost make Rebellion want to blush. What are you going to answer next? Are you going to provide a list of each character's blood type? Explain that Hinamizawa was created by Godzilla? Reveal that the characters are in the Matrix? That Keiichi took the blue pill? Give it to me, Higurashi Kai! Give it to me with all its idiocy! No longer is it about the frailty within ourselves. A grounded source of terror, knowing we can be brutal and inhumane towards others like Shion and Rena have, and how help from others can be a way to overcome the dark side of our nature. Now our characters will literally team up with a spirit entity, essentially Oyashiro herself, in this Saturday morning cartoon to stop Cobra Commander and her evil plan to ruin Hinamizawa that might have something to do with being like a god, microscopic brain parasites, a secret society, government conspiracy with a light peppering of tidbits regarding bioweapons. Oh yeah, let's mention the subject of bioweapons in our horror mystery series. This goes beyond inane, folks. This is an edgy 4Kids level plot. Do I have Hinamizawa syndrome? Did I just hallucinate this crap? I wish I did. The fact that the story had to take such a dumbfounding turn on Pseudoscience Boulevard is just an ass pull if I have ever seen one. A hodgepodge that just makes me want to facepalm really hard. Higurashi Kai, for all its understandable intentions, just drools all over itself with some answers that just go too far and defy belief in ways I did not expect when rewatching it for the first time in years. And to those who kept saying in the comments section of part 1 that the unpolished presentation was a turnoff because it looked too ugly, well, wish granted. Higurashi Kai sports higher quality environmental art, the character designs have a more developed, detailed, and softer edge style with more consistent modeling to boot, the animation is more fluid and expressive when the show momentarily huffs paint, and the coloring takes a more naturalistic turn with how it's lit and shaded. But isn't that just absolutely ironic? In a way, the extra clarity fits the direction, where the uneasy, savage, and messy visuals of Higurashi inadvertently served as an analog for its uneasiness, savageness, and messiness of how it depicts mankind's darkest hours. The cleanliness, distinction, and better attention to cosmetic minutia of its continuation is merely a pair of glasses that better show how borderline concussed this story really is. Oh sure, when it does something well, it can make for a genuinely gut-punching son of a bitch. A tense thriller that shows promise, but again, this chapter of the Higurashi no Naku Koro ni saga is not about asking, it's about telling you the truth, and the truth is, well, the truth is just goddamn ridiculous when you think about it. Look, Higurashi no Naku Koro ni Kai is nowhere near the worst thing that could happen with the Higurashi anime series. Outbreak! But for something to start off as a methodical horror series where the scares hit very close to home and tell us, yes, we can be like this. Higurashi Kai says, yeah, that girl has horns and no one seems to notice, and Rika can travel through different world lines. Pretty trippy, don't you think? This is hard to watch for all the wrong reasons, folks. It's hard to watch because within all the talk about parallel timelines and how you need to believe in order to defeat fate, and the heart of the cards and the 31 flavors of friendship, the show had pretty much lost its way. And that's the thing. When you boil it down, it went off the handle, dived straight into the ocean, swam to a desolate island, and lost its way. And as we've seen from Kira and the other spin-off that shall not be named again, you can be damn well sure it'll stay that way for the foreseeable future. I love mystery, and I can like horror if it isn't another, but let's face it, this wasn't trying to be a horror mystery. It wanted to be more. It reached out and tried to grab a new direction to take itself. It wanted to be all in one. The show that ends the mystery and the horror. The problem is that the horror in Higurashi no Naku Koro ni is within us all. To end it would mean to change who we are. To change what made the first season such an experience to behold. An experience so uncomfortable because of how much truth was within the scenarios that could potentially make you question your own morality. If Higurashi no Naku Koro ni Kai thought it can answer all of that, if it can solve all of that, if it thought it could fill in the blanks and change human nature itself, I'd say it was a futile effort that was all for naught. But does that mean it ruins the Higurashi series? Not really. As a whole, I still can't deny that it's a damn influential series of anime for those who gave it a shot, and even now, there aren't many that can match it as a mystery, as horror, as a tragedy, as a psychological thriller, or all four combined since its debut in 2006, and attempts at doing so usually end in misguided edginess. But it's not perfect, and with the series having been put into an anime limbo after the release of You-Know-What, it sucks that it's no longer holding the same amount of enthusiasm nowadays. The first season of Higurashi is certainly one of my favorite animes. In my top 10, I might add. But let's face it, there really wasn't a viable way for season 2 to match what was accomplished, so it didn't try. Kai took a different direction, and did so in a less than flawless manner. But for all my gripes with Higurashi Kai, I still hold it as a show of sizable importance as being a baffling but valid sequel to one of my favorite animes of all time. I don't entirely dislike it either, but that doesn't mean it holds up well upon a second viewing. It was a struggle to watch for all the wrong reasons, and it became harder and harder to continue as each episode went by. It's a different, stupider Higurashi, but it's still Higurashi, and taking both seasons as one whole experience, it's still one of my favorite series in anime.